So we're live streaming.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 25th Committee of the Whole Council meeting. First item is calling the meeting to order. I recognize we do have a quorum. Item 2, adoption of the agenda. Just a reminder, item 8.4 will be discussed in camera tonight, so we can present it to the public on Wednesday. Any other question? Any questions on the agenda? Seeing none. Item 3, declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Councillor Gallons.
Just in respect to the children's first presentation.
On Children's First?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any others? Item 4, delegations, presentations, or petitions. 4.1, we have Children's First. I believe Patricia Davison.
And Candace.
Candace. You'd like to turn your mics on.
So there's a power button just on the right side.
Is the
You have
power
a backup
on, or somebody left them on.
Should be a button on the side.
On the other side.
Oh, the other right.
If the light doesn't come on, then the batteries are dead.
Yeah, it's not fun enough.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just speak louder.
I don't know if you have these in your packages. No? Okay. I'll pass them. No, I brought way too many. I mean, more than I needed.
I don't think there's batteries in those units, because we took them out to charge them.
I don't think the charger works.
Well, we'll see.
A reminder, presentations are limited to approximately 10 minutes.
Okay, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Candace Layton, and I am one of the directors of the Children's First Society. With me tonight is Patricia Davison, our Executive Director. Before we begin, I'd like to note that we have sent our operational report for the 2021-2022 year. And if you have any questions about the report, you can contact Patricia or our co-chairs, Mike Carlo and Lenore. Since our last update to the Mayor and Council, Children's First Society had less opportunity to host events such as our annual gala. The COVID outbreaks in our community limited what we were able to host. We were not able to hold as many bingos as usual, again, due to COVID closures. We were still able to remain fiscally stable.
So the Children First Society, as many of you know, opened in 2013 after many hard years of hard work by volunteers and community members. The center has space for 127 children and 6 programs. We have the infant program, the preschool program, the JK and school age program, and the Gwich'in language immersion program. As of May, we have staff to accommodate 83 spaces, and we have 90 children enrolled. And so we have some part-time children that overlap in different spaces. We have 6 unfilled full-time staff positions. This includes the facilities manager chef position, the outreach program coordinator, and we have about a wait list of about 12 children wanting to get in immediately, and a list of about 30 children wanting to get in the near future. On March 18th, 2020, the staff had a professional development day. We hold 2 annually, and we were able to practice some reframing behaviors and how to facilitate social interactions. And we had the rehab department and Cloudberry Wellness assist us with that. COVID, of course, has had an impact on us. As essential workers, the past 2 years have taken a toll on the mental wellness of the staff. It's been a series of unknowns, delivering programming without some of our vital strategies available: limited sensory motor, physical distancing, enhanced disinfecting, limited social dramatic materials. All of that was a challenge that the staff embraced fully. As I mentioned, we do have the Gwich'in Immersion Program. In the summer of 2021, we had graduated our first cohort of Gwich'in preschool speakers. This was a great success in partnership with both GTC and Makeway Foundation. And with the support from GTC, we started a second cohort of 8 children ranging in the age of 18 months to 4 years. We're using what we learned in the first session to strengthen the program and give the children a rich language and cultural experience.
So our community outreach program is a huge hit within the community. Our biggest event is the Kids in the Kitchen, which allows us to provide meal kits to families. The meal kits include the ingredients to make a specific meal along with the instructions. We did a variety of streams of the science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math activities for families that were isolating or physical distancing. In the outreach program for the 2021-2022, we were able to engage over 150 families and support more than 300 children. Our scholarship program began in late 2019 to help us give back to the community. The program is there to help families with young children access the programs at the center who otherwise would not be able to afford the current programs. To date, we have had about 6 families enrolled in the scholarship program, which provide benefits to approximately 8 children. The scholarship program is open when there is space available within the program, and currently we are not accepting any more applications. So for on the land activities, in the past fiscal year, we were able to have groups of children participate in spring trips to an elders camp, summer boat trips to set fish nets and learn how to harvest fish from elders, summer trips to Project Jewel to learn about tending camp, and fall berry picking trips. The program is play-based emergent curriculum that has had much success. The children are observing traditional skills from the elders and traditional knowledge from them. They've had the opportunity to practice the skills in their play and interaction with their peers and families. All of the families spoke of how the children came back with more confidence and skills. The children had stories to tell and knowledge to share. This ripple effect is going out into the community. The children are using the skills in their lives. The elders were here see them using the skills and talking about their experience, and the elders interact with them more because they have the common interest in on the land activities.
So the other program that we have in our building is the Aboriginal Head Start program. And our partnership with the IRC, with the Aboriginal Head Start program, has grown significantly since it first began. And they're able to utilize all the programs and resources in our center for them to implement their Head Start program.
Yeah, okay, so just for our closing, we want to say thank you for your time this evening, and just a reminder, should council or the town of Inuvik staff have any questions or concerns, you can contact Patricia or our co-chairs, Lenore and Mike.
And we do have a space on our board for a town representative that has been empty for a couple of years now. So if the town has anyone they would like to join our board meetings, there is space and we would welcome that involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions or comments for Children's First? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation.
Sorry, council, I can clarify the board opening too if they want.
Oh, okay.
So just for those new councilors, typically the board representative has been the director of finance from the town in the past. Just we've had a bit of a quick revolving door on that right now. So that's basically why it hasn't been filled at this moment in time. It's not set to be the director of finance. There was a reason back then as to why it was made the director of finance. But going forward, I think a lot of those issues have been dealt with. So we will probably look at It doesn't necessarily have to be a staff member as well, but that's just sort of historically what we've had before on the board.
Thanks for the information, Grant. Let council think about that one. Don't have to make a decision tonight. Anyway, thank you, Patricia, and I've forgotten the other person's name already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item of business is public question period. Any questions? Seeing none. Item 6 will have to be postponed as they're not ready yet. Adoption of the minutes of the last meeting. Item 7, the action items list. Any questions on that? Seeing none. 8.1, under new business, appointments to the
Oh,
2000.
can I just, sorry,
Sorry?
Counselor Gowans is still out of the room.
Inventory for that.
I wondered why things are moving along so well.
You always have that slow.
Item 8.1, appointments to the 2022 Municipal Board of Revision, scheduled to be held at 10 a.m. on Thursday, May the 5th. We need one counselor to sit on the Board of Revision. There's 2 members of the public as well, Chris Garvin and Vince Brown. So do I have any volunteers? This typically does not take very long. We, I believe, have 29 this year appeals.
21.
21, and most of those are the assessor appeals, which go really fast. I've never seen it incur more than $100 for a half a day, so it's not a big time commitment, but I do need a volunteer. Okay, you can think about it till Wednesday night. Eight point two, strategic priorities chart update. There are 5 strategic priorities. 2 of them have been completed, the economic development strategy and the tourism strategy. We have 3 options to add 2 new items to the top 5 priorities. Do nothing, or defeat the motion, which is basically to add 2 priorities. What are your wishes? Councillor Wayman.
I'd like to keep it full, keep adding, keep going forward.
Just leave it the way it is, or,
Well, add more,
okay,
keep it full. Keep the council working, keep the town working.
so next, you can see the next item is there, which 2 do you wish to see moved up?
That's gonna take a discussion.
Could you turn your mic on so I can hear you?
I said, that's gonna take a discussion between all of us. What does everyone want to move forward?
Did you want
The
to,
purpose of what?
Yeah.
everybody want to think about it and come back Wednesday night with a recommendation, or discuss it tonight?
Discuss it. I mean, obviously, we should be discussing our properties and our abandoned properties and the residential properties all together, because we are having problems finding land for the new housing developments coming up and everything. So we should all be looking at how do we open our community back up? How do we get the unsightly ones dealt with? How did, like, for instance, the past, we had the housing problem, the Parks Canada problem, the RCMP problem. We have to be way more open and way more look at what we can open up and where we can clean up some of this stuff. Because if we're starting to go into a housing building frenzy again, we gotta get some places open up.
So those would be your 2 recommendations that,
I would say work on I want the residential property. I mean, the abandoned unsightly property's been 20 years and I don't know, it seems like the hardest one to deal with, right?
yeah,
I mean, if they're paying their taxes, there's not much you can do. Right? I mean, opening up maybe our new subdivision, I don't know what the answer is, but we gotta come up with something for the new development coming to town.
okay,
Because we literally have nothing.
thank you. Deputy Mayor Kulikarski.
Thank you. I agree that residential properties, I just, I fear that staffing wise, I don't know if things can be accomplished, and I'm sure that SAO Hood would be able to tell us more about that. I do have one that's not on here that had come up in the last term, and I've received a phone call since about the road naming. We do have a road naming request in, and specifically for a road named after someone involved with the residential school system. And I just think that as a council with a priority of reconciliation and doing work like that, I think that could be something that would make on the chart. I know I wasn't here for the planning session, so I wasn't able to put it on then, but I would put forward maybe as one of the two that we put on to be the street naming as a priority. I'll leave that for discussion. Thank you.
Last time that actually came up, I talked to the military. They were tied up
Oh,
with
it's not the one I'm
Operation Manu,
Sorry, that's not the one I'm talking about.
the road naming request.
To rename a road.
Yeah.
Not the Corporal Anderson one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Gowans.
Would it be possible, would it be possible to have the property discussion as a larger discussion, and then we can roll those three discussions into one larger discussion and free up the spot? And if we can do that, then I would definitely say road maintenance.
Any other comments? Councillor Wainman.
We're looking at our next things on our priorities. Abandoned unsightly property, that's always gonna be a fine, a ticket, or it's looked into. So to me, that's, and they're always a nightmare. Empty properties, they're always for sale or could be for sale. Someone wants to buy them. I mean, I think we should move up residential property, our inventory of looking into that, and our trail plan. I mean, now that the bypass is wide open, we have people walking it all the time. Centennial bypass, we have all these open areas, brush cutting now, open for trail plans. I don't know if it's the Canada plan trails apply to that. And of course, our community plan update, so. But the top two, abandoned unsightly property, that's been an ongoing thing forever here. I like the two, residential property inventory, the trail plans.
Councillor Hurd.
I'm in favor for doing the residential property inventory. That's a priority we need to address, and possibly road maintenance. Could be on there as well. Just 2 cents on that.
Is that the road naming?
No, road maintenance. The priorities.
Councillor Devlin?
Just for clarity, when we speak of residential property inventory, as a new council, I'm not exactly sure of what we speak, so can we get someone just explain what that means? Thank you.
SAO Hood.
To be honest, I think that it was something the council came up with, not so during the planning session. So again, it could just be, and it wouldn't be that hard to do, I'll be perfectly honest. If you're looking at the current inventory of what we have for sale, we actually have that as part of our audit and everything we have to do, so we could present that to tell you. And as far as moving forward, as far as residential property, that's sort of in the current community plan as to where our next step would be to expand. However, our next set of properties would be up on Carmichael and that whole area there. It's just the reason they're not open right now is because we don't have the utility going into there, and that's probably $1.5 million, $2 million project to get that in there, which in theory you get back from selling the lots, but we haven't had a lot of lot sales in the last few years.
So would the inventory be to survey new lots to add to the inventory, or is it just an inventory of what we have existing?
I would say that if you're looking for our recommendation, it would be developing the, what we have now as far as up on Carmichael. Those lots are all surveyed and and land titles. If you're gonna go and do a new one, then it becomes road building. Survey, a lot of surveys is a very costly kind of a thing, when we do have actually a number of lots that we could put up and doing it, just the infrastructure just not right now.
And I did want to say that I'm very much for abandoned and unsightly properties. And something, and I know it's been sort of an ongoing one without an easy solution. But I think it's something that we have to tackle at some point if we're going to, if we're very strong on our tourism strategy. I do think there's a few areas of town that we could use or look at that policy and just see if we can come up with some new ideas. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Wainman.
I remember once upon a time too, we talked to a few people applied for properties on Airport Road. And they denied. I would like to look at opening those up for people that want bigger land, bigger housing, instead of being and people that can apply for housing, financial assistance with bigger residential areas out there, or bigger, what do you call it, their acreages, like country residential. That's what I was looking for. I remember we talked about before and a few people applied and they were denied, but it's something else we should look at because not everyone wants to live right. That's part of the community, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I fully understand where this comes from. My suggestion, and this is only a suggestion, is if we're gonna do that, then that would mean altering our community plan, which means then we have to go through ministerial approval, et cetera, et cetera. However, next year, in 2023, our community plan is under the legislation, is up for renewal as far as doing it. So that to me would be deferring that a preference to 2023 when you're already redoing the community plan, instead of going through all the process of changing and going through the ministerial work, and then instead having a consultant come in and help us with the community plan and how to properly look at the airport road areas and stuff like that. That would just be my thoughts, and just from a logistics point of view. We do have a couple of properties at Shell Lake that are actually available. So.
Yeah, the last couple of people that came in though, they want a little bigger lots. They want to be able to let their dogs run free and have an acreage instead of a 200 size.
Again, like I said before, it's similar to expanding the other part. If we are going to go along Airport Road, then it would have to be, it would be a longer term, because then there are no lots out there. So then we'd have to get a survey registered with land titles, and that's probably a year process right there of getting all that done. And that's why having it in with the community plan to
Some of the people applying for this stuff are willing to go that distance on their own. You know, so I mean, we don't necessarily have to put those bigger properties out to the town's responsibility. If somebody applies for it and we agree to it, and they have to realize they're gonna have to build a road, they're gonna look after their own water and sewer. There's a lot to it, so. And maybe that we attach that to it as well, so the town doesn't have to go out and survey and do it all. If they survey it themselves and realize that's what they're getting into, right?
You know, I fully understand if they want to do that part. The thing is, we no matter what, even if we want to do it, we still have to change our community plan.
Oh, yeah, but you're just saying that next year we're gonna change it. We've got to
Yeah.
look at it anyway. So logistically speaking, like you said, we could actually work that in there and make the public aware of what we're going to do, and maybe other people draw interest, right?
Yeah, the unique thing that we have that we do here and versus other areas, like not just other areas in the territories, most areas, like when you get into the bigger in the south, is developers buy the land and then they pay for everything and do the roads and that, and then resell the lots and et cetera, versus the actual municipality doing all that work and then trying to recoup their money later.
And that's what the theory I would be looking at for this kind of land development, because I mean, I don't see why the community should have to pay for it. If somebody wants to move out of town and have their own acreage, well, then they have, you know, it costs a few dollars on their own, right? I mean, that's like you said, down south, that's how it's done everywhere, like everywhere north of 60.
We don't have to follow down south though.
No, we don't. I'm just saying that this would be give people options, right? Like some people want to, I mean, not necessarily commercial lots, but like rural.
But again, that could be added into the community plan.
A year away is a long time, but I guess we can get there.
Councillor Gallons,
SEO Hood is kind of this process. We have access to this, so we can actually look at things we can do under community plan renewal. Like we have information that we can look at and review. So when we have those discussions, we can kind of really explore different angles.
What we've done in the past is actually taken and hired a consultant to come in. When we did it 8 years ago, and that they came in, they talked to the community, they had open houses, and they got input from the community, they presented to council. And that as to getting thoughts of how the community, because it's more than just lots and layout, it's okay, the expansion, different things of areas. So right now, I would say that it would be giving you the information now. I mean, it's on our current community plan is on the website. If you wanted to take a look at it. And that kind of explains it. So. Don't know if that answered your question, but.
It did partially. I guess I'm thinking if we're gonna have the discussion, let's have a fulsome discussion so that we understand the process and we can really explore the process and look at different aspects of the process that really will allow us to do things that we want to do and see what we can do. And then make the decision based on kind of knowing those parameters.
any further comment, SEO Hood?
No, I think that's, like I say, when the community plan, when we get the consultant, a lot of that is taken care of at that time.
So, any further discussion? Seem to be in agreement on abandoned / unsightly property. For number 2, I'm hearing a lot on the community plan or residential property. What are your wishes for the second?
I think that we need to be proactive and possibly think about the recreation facility for future needs.
Sorry?
About the recreation facility for future needs. I think this is something that the community needs, long term, and it's something that we should really take into consideration.
Okay. Any other suggestions? So we have residential, well, abandoned unsightly property. Is everybody in agreement on that one? Councillor Gallons?
Just one last question. I realize we're kind of limited by the number of priorities we can have on our top list. Is there any-
It's 5, yes.
Is it set in stone or do we?
And I sorry, Mayor, I just, the reason you don't want any more, it just becomes owners, because remember, anything up the top of those 5 has to then now be down in the operational. If all of a sudden you decide to put 10 up there, then some of the other priorities that maybe that the departments may have as well.
Yeah.
Would get pushed away because we have to fill in and complete all those. So that's why they try and keep it at 5. In fact, it used to be 4 on that, so.
Okay.
Okay, is everyone in agreement on unsightly property? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's number 1. Now, we also have residential property has been mentioned. Inventory, anybody in favor of that one? We have 3, 4, 5.
I'm in favor, sorry, I'm having trouble with the phone.
Welcome, Alana.
Series alive.
We also have the trail plan mentioned. Anybody in favor of that one? 5 again. Road maintenance, all in favor of that one? 1. And recreation facility, all in favor of that one? 2, 3, 3.
And Dr. Kulikowski had one on the road. Naming.
Yeah. Road naming, all in favor of that one? 2, 3, 4.
I'm in favor of that one.
Favor of that one as well? So far, the top ones for number 2 are residential property and the trail plan with 5 votes each. So we've got to break the tie somehow. I guess it's my turn to vote. Yes, Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just as a quick note too, like these items aren't gonna disappear. They remain on the next list, right? So they are still a priority of
Yeah,
council.
they're not going away.
It just might not be immediate.
Councillor Merrill, you haven't
Yeah.
voted.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm truly having trouble with my phone. I would go with abandoned property as my priority.
We have that as number 1. We're looking for number
Okay,
2. We have a tie between residential property and the trail plan.
I would go with residential property.
Okay. Residential property is number 2. So the motion is that Inuvik Town, which will be read Wednesday night, that Inuvik Town Council requests administration to update the strategic priority chart with the following items. Number 1, abandoned unsightly property, and number 2, the residential property inventory. Thank you. Item 8.3, review of the donations policy. So depending what council decides, request administration to make any council recommended changes and then bring back to council for approval via resolution. Do we have any recommendations at this time? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just a couple of notes, actually, under definitions, we just need to add in the pavilion and the welcome center. Because everything else is kind of listed out. And then under 9.3, I just had a question, so.
Okay.
Just, it's the Inuvik Volunteer Firefighters Ball one, and my question was just, is the donation of the space, is that the standing donation? There's no dollar amount attached or anything.
No, it's just to, the community hall.
Right, okay,
That's all.
that's all I wanted to check. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Deborah.
And I had some questions about section 9, the pre-approved annual donations. I'd just like to know sort of the definition between sponsorship and donation, because we have both here. And I think that, is there a difference between the two?
Say what?
I don't think there's really a whole lot of a difference. I don't think we're not technically sponsoring any of these. We're, for example, the scholarship, that is just something that we donate the money to for a specific purpose. Again, with the Northern Arts Center, it's almost like a membership donation because of what they bring into the community or have in the past. And again, the Muskrat Jamboree is a donation to them. It's not a sponsorship, a true sponsorship.
So I do have questions about the cash donation, in this case, to Muskrat Jamboree, but a cash donation to any nonprofits in the community. Is there some type of equitable system where any eligible nonprofit can apply for a set amount of money? And I don't see it currently. So I'm wondering one of two things. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I really don't feel it's a position of council to choose winners or losers. It's to create an even playing field for all parties in our community. So I did have some questions about, and I did ask the questions of the Muskrat Jamboree Committee about the $2,500. And to be frank, I wasn't satisfied with some of the answers. I asked if the money was for a specific purpose or could even be tied to a specific purpose, and we were told no, it was for the general coffers. It was just to sort of add in. It wasn't necessarily needed or specific. So And that's one of our nonprofit community groups in town. We have many. We have 10 or 15 of them, many with some pretty serious overhead with annual costs, especially with cost of living going up. And so I just see a disconnect with one organization sort of being able to access cash from the town without any discernible purpose versus any other nonprofit organization without an opportunity to even apply for potentially a capped donation amount. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Did you want to comment, SAO Hood, or?
I don't have I guess I'll speak to it from a logistical budget point of view is based on the policy we have right now, then it allows us to budget. So then I think you would still have to, from a budgeting purpose, so going forward, you'd have to have a set amount saying this is the pool, and then council will have to decide who gets it from the pool. Because if we go with just saying we'll just take it on a case by case basis, which we do even with the pool, but if we have no idea at the end of the year how much, because we may get 15 organization come in and the council says, yeah, no, here's $2,500, and then I haven't budgeted for it. Some years it may be okay, other years it could be tight type thing. So that's the only where I feel that from an administrative point of view is that council will still either have to set an amount so that we can budget for it. And then council will still be on the hook, so to speak, as to decide how much and who gets what. Otherwise, I think it becomes almost very difficult just to say, yeah, just come and we'll decide whether you get some money or not. That's the only comment. So I think council is still gonna, unfortunately, have to make that decision.
Yes.
Thank you, SEO. Just my preference is to actually kill cash donation, period. 2,500 or the capped amount. I don't mind discussing scholarships. I think scholarships are something that is a different entity. And even the NACC sponsorship is a sponsorship. And I believe that's something that again brings the value back to the community. And that's why I really feel there's a difference between sponsorship and donation. So I'm good at the sponsorships and the scholarships. Like I said, with the donations, I have no problem with in-kind donations. In fact, I strongly encourage those. But if I had a preference, I would say let's kill cash donations. These are tax dollars. We're not a for-profit. That's for for-profits to sort of be putting that type of money out. So that's sort of my thought is, I appreciate what you said, SAO Hit, about yes, it would be a bit of a complicated thing if we sort of did a capped thing and we had a whole bunch of applicants in. My preference really would be to just kill cash donations. But thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? Councillor Gowans?
I do take the point Councillor Devon made about favoritism and treating groups differently. But I'd also raise other points to say that when we went through the issue of the dollars, and I had asked them, can they track those dollars so they know where those dollars are going to go? They can do that. So yes, it goes to a general coffer, but if we ask them to track those dollars, they can do that. They can also specifically allocate those dollars for what we decide we see as fit for that donation. When you kill cash donations, you're actually really penalizing groups that are well organized on a regular basis, consistently well organized on a regular basis. And I think there has to be some room for our budget to reward those groups that have the volunteers consistently year after year, are organized year after year, do a lot of the legwork themselves year after year, and actually bring in dollars to our community year after year. I do take the point, we have to be careful on how we spend our dollars, and we can't be cash cap. But I also think we have to look at things not just as one or the other. I think there's more context to it. And I think when I look at the context of what the Jamboree does for our community, I think it's worth keeping those cash donations for groups that do that, like the Jamboree does.
Councillor Devlin.
I understand what Councillor Gallons is saying, sort of what the groups do for the community, but that's the question is where is that line? The Great Northern Arts Festival brings in 600 to $1 million in secondary money a year. But they're not coming and asking for that money. Well, they're not eligible for this money underneath the current policy. But because there is no cash donation availability, it's only built into this one pre-approved annual donation. And so that's the question is what is that line? How do you qualify an organization? Say Muskrat Jamboree is great for the 64 years and brings in, it's a great community event. No argument from me. Great Northern Arts Festival, 34 years, has brought in about $30 million in those 34 years. Good argument on that end as well. And so that's why I think we get in. That's why I'm sort of bringing this up is saying what is here right now is we have picked winners and losers right now. And I'm just looking for a system where that's not our job. So let's get a system where we just have an equal, even playing field so that we don't get into these sort of context fights about, you know, this organization does more for the community or that one. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Thank you. I'm trying to think how to say this concisely in that I just following up on what SAO Hood said, I'm certainly not interested as counselor in rating applications for money or anything like that. I think that having one cash donation a year to this specific group to me is, I don't know how to say it properly, but the Muskrat Jamboree to me is its own cup of tea. It's historical, it's cultural, it's all of those things. And I think that the reason that it made it onto this sheet is because the council at the time discussed it and thought that it deserved to be here. Again, I know you say we're picking winners and losers and whatever else, but I just feel like the Muskrat Jamboree is its own thing. It's 100% volunteer run, you know, like I just, and I know you can argue that about other things as well. As an Inuvik resident, I just feel like the Jamboree is, I don't want to see them lose this myself. And I don't know how to say that any better. So thank you.
Councilor Galax.
I think it's worth having a discussion before we kill a cash donation for a group that does so much for the community. And I think Mike Kulikowski's point, they've been here for a long time, so they have some history on what they've done for our community. And it is a cultural event. I would definitely say before we kill cash donations, let's have a discussion on it. And I don't see anything in the policy that says we can't add other organizations to that process. So it's not a closed process. And I'd say let's have those discussions, and if it's worth it to dig a little deeper into the criteria, then I think it's worth having a discussion as a council.
Thank you. Any other comment? Councilor Wayne.
Well, I for one won't be involved in taking anything away from the Muscat Jamboree. I think it's a great event and it's a community event that brings everyone together in the winter. In the end of the winter and the springtime. For the small amount it is, I don't think it's a big issue. And on the other hand, the Great Northern Arts Festival is a great summer festival. I don't see why they're not as equally involved to apply for the same amount of money. So you don't sit around here and talk about $2,500 forever. But they're both good events. They both show the community what's involved in the summer, what's involved in the end of the Muscat Jamborees for the end of the long winters and seasons to everyone get together and, you know, have fun, do hand games, do whatever you do, race sleds, do whatever it is. Get the winter out of your head. And in the winter, in the summertime, the Great Northern Arts Festival, that's a great thing too. I see it brings lots of people. I'm quite shocked with the numbers that Councillor Devlin said. I'm quite shocked with that. But I mean, if that's the case, well, that means that Muscat Jamboree must be close in that area or more. You know, they're both great events and there's nothing stopping them from applying for the same thing. You know, they have precedents, right? It's a very simple process. But for the Muscat Jamboree, you know, I'd hate to be one of the councillors up here and saying, oh, well, they shut down a few events because we denied them a cash donation after 64 years, if you're correct. You know, it's not a good thing, right? So I like to see that carry on. But like I said, the Great Northern Arts Festival can apply for the same thing and they have precedents. Like, I mean, I think it's a great event too. Like, I like to see all the people and the tourists in the summertime going to paintings and we give them the same thing, the arena and, you know,
Any other comments? Actually, Councillor Harder.
Thank you. I have to agree with Councillor Gowans and Councillor Wyman on this matter as well. But I think we should push it along just a little bit further, have a little bit more discussion of it, about the donations, and this is a tough one. We really don't want to be that person saying no to community organizations that are here on and consistently bringing money to the table every year. And it is a community event, so we have to discuss this a little bit further. Thank you.
Actually, I'd like to speak on this one myself, but I can't sitting in the chair, so I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Kulikowski to take my place. If I may. Councillor Devlin actually raises some interesting points, and I tend to agree to a certain extent. I've seen groups come to council over 20 odd years, very deserving of money, and we've always managed to find something. I look at school groups that have come here that are going to cultural events in another community or even out of the territories in some cases where a councillor made a donation. Muskrat Jamboree is Inuvik. I don't think anything speaks to Inuvik quite like the Muskrat Jamboree. When I went to the opening ceremonies the other night, that arena was full. Even when the lights went out, nobody left. I think it was great. I had to wait another 15 minutes to give a speech that I didn't want to give anyway, so it was nice. But $2,500, when you look at the town's budget, not even 0.001% of our budget. And I don't want to nickel and dime some of the deserving organizations to death simply because, well, this one gets money, maybe this one doesn't. We have an application process. If they meet the criteria, we should do everything in our power to help them, not say, sorry, we don't donate money. We can put a cap on the amount of money we donate in a year, whether it's $2,500 or $10,000 or $50,000, as long as it's budgeted. And that's why, one of the reasons why this $2,500 was put in here. So we could budget for it every year. The $5,000 for NACC in the budget, the $1,000, it's in the budget. So there's no surprises. It's easy to take it out, but I don't want to see that happen. If another organization comes forward that's deserving, I want to be able to say, yeah, we have money in the budget for that. And we should be donating. We are this community. We were voted in by this community to support this community. And I think we should do everything in our power to do that. Anyway, thank you for listening to me.
I don't know. Councillor Merrill wanted to say something.
Sorry.
Councillor Gallagher.
I'm not too sure if Councillor Merrill was trying to add to the discussion, that's all. I could hear on the speaker, but I don't know if she's trying to.
Yeah,
Councillor,
can you hear me now?
go ahead.
Okay, so I agree with what Councillor Gowan has said. I really think we need to honor the role of the Muskrat Jamboree. And I agree, we can look at other groups, but I remember when this first came up, the idea was that we were basically looking give some security to a group that has brought so much to the community and literally represents the community. But I don't think there's any issue with going back and looking at our donations policy. It's probably a good thing to do with every new council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Merrill. Any further discussion? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
I guess the question then that I have is that the conversation seems to be, do we add in a section about how to apply for a cash donation? Because right now you can't just apply for a cash donation as a group. I believe what happened in this situation was Muskrat Jamboree submitted by letter and presented to council and came like, basically did a presentation as we had this evening and requested that, and then admin would have vetted everything and all of that, but so we would have to actually make a change to the policy then if we wanted to have it open for any group to come forward and ask for cash. I'm pretty sure there is a line in here that says we don't give cash donations other than the ones listed. And I don't know, I just feel like I don't think that, again, that we should be making decisions every 2 weeks about who gets donations and who doesn't, even if we have, let's say, 10 grand a year budgeted for something like that. The opportunities that we have at the town to give in-kind donations far outweigh any $10,000 we would ever put aside that we could give people. And that includes things like if they're holding their event and we can give them a tent structure, or things like, you know, like all those kinds of things that actually make the logistics of their events happen. So I would, with just listening to the conversation that's kind of happening myself, I wouldn't want to add in a section about cash donations. But I also would like to keep the one that's there for the Jamboree. So just my 2 bits at this time. Thank you.
Other comments? So it looks like we have consensus on leaving the donations as is that are there now. Any further comments on the, oh, Councilor Harder, sorry.
Thank you. Well, I'm for that, leaving it in, but I do have an issue with that, the fact that it is taxpayer-based money that's going towards this. Like, we do have to budget for it. And I did have an issue with when they took credit, when they would give money to other organizations and take the credit for it when the taxpayer dollar is being just donated to them. I think that we have to, there has to be something in play where we get to choose where this donation goes. It's, to me, that didn't seem right. It didn't sit right with me. At the fact that they could give money to another organization and kind of take the credit for it. If they have monies left over, I mean, I personally had an issue with that. So there should be a cap as to how much we can donate, but at the same time, we should be allowed to say, this is where we feel that the money should go to this year. Or if they know that they're short in an area, so that the town can get the credit for it.
Any comments, S.A. Wood?
Certainly, with Councilor Harder, I am certainly in agreement. And that some clarifying, some of the money that they give away is coming out of their lottery account, just so you're aware. So that is a completely separate item in that. However, if I have no problems with, if council wishes to say, and I'm not familiar with the Muskrat Jamboree as far as prize money goes, but maybe instead of they take the $2,500 and it now becomes a sponsorship of a contest, right? Because they still have to outlay that money, right? So then maybe, and that gets it, you get it in both ways of not only it's a sponsorship, shows that the town's contributing, even though they do give us credit anyways, but then it is something, the town of Inuvik snow carving contest, or, I don't know exactly how much money they give away as far as prizes and stuff like that. You have to be very careful because of that kind of a thing. But that is an option that we could say, instead of taking the $2,500 and say giving it to you, it's now the town of Inuvik event or a sponsorship event, and then that way the money has to go to that. And then theoretically they can take what normally they would spend and use it on something else. That is a suggestion if council is looking at other ways, just as far as defining where the money should go potentially.
Any further comment, Councilor Harder?
No, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Kolakowski?
I guess just a question in response to that. SEO Hood, would you feel that the next 2 days is enough time to maybe have a conversation with someone at the Jamboree to find out, like if there's something they could easily dedicate it to that we could put into the policy? Or would you say that that's more like, if we were to defer this item, say to next meeting, would that be a better timeline?
I would prefer to give us some more time to go back I just don't, given the few other things happening, I think the 2 days, and that was if on the agenda, the idea of putting it on was the discussion here, because depending on what happened, then I feel that it would be better off to come back, because there may be other suggestions based on what I've heard as to some of the wording you've asked about adding pavilion and things like that. We have to be careful and et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted, as Councillor Devon had asked earlier, to have her bring it forward to council now for the discussion. I think that should discussion a little further than that, then we can come forward with, to see what their thoughts are and contact them.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor Kulikowski, would you like to make a motion to defer to the May meetings?
I'll be happy to do that on Wednesday.
Sorry?
I'll do that on Wednesday.
Okay. Sure, so I guess no further comments, we're done with that. We'll make that motion, no, you won't, because you're the chair.
Well, I'll call for the motion.
Somebody will. Okay, 8.4 will be discussed in camera. 8.5, appeal by taxi number 19 regarding the extension of the license suspension. If you'd like to take a seat.
And also,
Sorry.
What else would I like to speak to?
Okay, Mr. Alemo is basically looking for an extension of the revoking of his taxi permit to allow him to sell his vehicle, possibly the permit. Anyway, do you have any comments?
Thank you for the councilors.
You're gonna have to speak up, sorry.
That doesn't work.
There's no
Right,
better.
there's no better. Yeah, thank you for mayor and councilor here, that you give me opportunity. Yeah, I spend almost $35,000, and then without a reason, they stopped me, and then I think I have a chance to shift the other company. The other company are 99%. They are the same speaker language, same culture, the same thing. So I talked to the Delta. He say I cannot take you. I like take you, but I cannot, because most of our drivers from the same people. So they are not, they don't like to work with them, but because they speak the same language. So I said, I don't have guarantee to, I spent $35,000. I have a family, I have children, I supposed to send them university. And then I spend this money and then no guarantee. They say, yeah. So what I'm asked now, I need at least to sell my permit time, that I can at least get at least half of my money. Because I'm a responsibility for my family. I have to feed them. I have to support them. That's not easy for me. That the money, what I spend on this is not easy for me. So I need to ask the councillors to extend at least to look someone to buy my permit. Even I couldn't sell my permit because they already block every way. Even my wife, she tried to take the permit. They say no. This is like, it look like, you know, so really, because we are like, this platform is like
You know me? That's why maybe they do that. So I need the time that I can get someone to buy my permit at least half of the price.
Okay, thank you. Before I open it up to questions from council, I understand bylaw may have some comments as well. Aaron?
You want to speak here now?
No, I'm more just here to field questions.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions?
It's Alana, can I just clarify? We're just being asked for an extension to be able to sell the license?
Sorry, Alana, what was that?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that the extension would allow this gentleman to be able to sell his license, but he wouldn't be acting as a taxi driver during that time. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Kulikowski, you had a question?
Not necessarily a question, I just, within the request for council decision, it says that, I believe it says that municipal enforcement has no reason to suspend or revoke this license should a taxi company otherwise or allow work. So I mean, to me, that seems pretty clear that this gentleman, unless we're missing some information, simply needs the 30 days to try to sell the license. I don't have any further questions on that. I hope that, it can be resolved. So, thanks.
Councilor Harder?
Thank you. I feel the same way that Deputy Mayor Kulikowski feels. I'm sorry that, you're in a really bind here. I don't think there should be an issue with this gentleman extension to sell his license, as long as he's not operating his taxi during that time. It's only fair. You are a resident of Inuvik. You've been here a long time, raised your family here. Well, I'm for that completely. Thank you.
Any, Councilor Devlin?
Yeah, no, I'm fully for extending.
Any further comments? One thing I noted in your letter, your claim, they won't hire you because of your ethnic background. I think SAO Hood and myself have mentioned, if that is the case, you should go to human rights and or labor standards and get them to work on this as well. Okay, council will make a decision and make a motion on Wednesday night as to what they're going to do. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Even when they spoke to me, they don't have a reason. I told them if anything mistake, they have to tell me, or they have to write it warning paper that you did this thing. And then I can correct that if I make a mistake. And then I'm giving the service like anybody working as a public transport. I didn't do any different. If anything, they're supposed to tell me this, this is a warning letter or something like that.
I don't know. We can't interfere with private businesses. Same as if Home Hardware were to fire somebody, we can't go down there and tell Joey, well, you got to hire him back. That's purely their decision. But we can rule on the license suspension. But that's all we can do. Okay, so
I need only
we'll
extension.
vote on this on Wednesday night. Okay, thank you for coming. Next, 9.1, third and final reading, bylaw 2686/GEN/22 to repeal a bylaw that no longer has any force or effect. And that was the Municipal Act. Mobile assessment bylaw. Item 11, we have no information items, no department head reports, council concerns. Any concerns tonight? Councillor Gallant.
I guess it's a question about the vacant councillor seat. I didn't see anything on the agenda.
I'm sorry.
Vacant councillor seat with respect to Councillor Rain resigning. Or given notice, he can't.
Ms. Hood, did you comment on that one?
With council's patience, I would like, I have sort of planned to come as a discussion within council on the May 11th set of council meetings. It was just a little rushed this time just because of my being away and that.
I wasn't sure what the status was, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, and basically I can send out something earlier to council, and I can quickly summarize it as you have three options. You can leave it vacant for the rest of the term, you can appoint somebody, or you can hold a by election. Those are the three options you have.
Any other concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion. I do need a motion now to go in camera. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski, seconded by Councillor Wayne.